Sonny, Sego, Washday, hi. I'm Kevin Meyer, and I'm a Dakota from Burtail, Manitoba. And Anishinaabe Health asked us to come out to do some singing and some drumming for your drumming for diabetes. And we understand that everything's going to go online. Right? So I brought my, we don't have a gigantic crew today, right? We're trying to keep our bubble really safe with this coronavirus going on. So we got our 4 singers that we always use. So we brought with us today, we brought Jaden. Jaden, raise up your stick. And we brought Kaylin Pelche. Kaylin. Brought Dakota. And we brought Julie. And so they got us slotted in to do a half hour a week, right, of doing some singing. So we thought about how we were going to start your event off, right? And we thought it would be appropriate that we started off with a grass dance song, right? So a long time ago, at our celebrations, right, our grass dancers would be the first ones out in the celebration arena. And what they would be doing is they would be patting down that grass where we're all going to dance, right? And they would say a prayer that everybody would get there safely and that everybody would have a fun time while they were there, right? And that when everybody left, that they'd get home safely. So we're going to sing a grass dance song, all right? We hope all you guys are safe at home from this COVID-19. And so here we go, without further ado, a grass dance song to start off your celebration of your drumming for diabetes. when we think about that big drum, right? And actually what it does, right? That big drum itself, it brings nations together for celebration. And there's a whole story that goes to that big drum. And I guess the story takes place, someone told me, about 500 years ago, maybe a little bit more. But it was during a time when our people were at war with each other. The Ojibwe Nation and the Dakota Nation. And what they were fighting over was, first, it was during that fur trade, right? And there was a young lady that grew up during that time, okay? And her grandmother, right, as she was growing up, taught her how to live with creation in a good way, right? And respecting all animals, respecting all life, thinking about your people, right? And but what she also taught her was how to evade danger, right? So she told her if there was ever a war party that was ever to attack, right, that she was to go hide, right, under the water. Okay? So the story takes place about 600 years ago, 500 to 600 years ago. Okay, and this young lady, she got up in the morning, right, to go do her work, right. And usually, the young people, boys and girls, they would go collect water first thing in the morning, right. So when she went down to go collect water, she noticed that there was no dogs. Okay, and that's one of the first signs that a war party has attacked, because they take out the dogs first, right. So she did what her grandmother told her to. And she went right to the water. Even though she hasn't heard no sounds of war yet, she still went right to that water because she's seen that first sign of danger. Right? After about a day of being under that water, she raised her head just to see what was going on. And she used one of those reeds that you see along the side of the lake to breathe with. That's hollow, right? And when she emerged out of the water, all she could hear were sounds of war. Right? And I imagine they're pretty scary sounds. I've never heard those sounds myself, right? But that's what she heard, right? And so she went back under that water because she was scared, right? And she was thinking about all those things that Grandma taught her, as she was growing up, how to respect life and all those kind of things. And on the second day, she rose her head out of the water. She could still hear those cries of war, and she commenced her praying. And what she was praying for was something to come that was going to bring her people together. So we wouldn't do what we were doing each other every time she lifted her head up. So we wouldn't war. And they say that while she was under that water, she stayed under that water for 4 days. So if anybody here has ever taken a bath for longer than a couple hours, you become pretty wrinkly. Right? And actually, if you stay in the water too long, you can become sick. So she was under the water for 4 days. On that fourth day, when she put her head out of the water, she didn't hear no more cries of war. And she crawled her way on the shore. But while she was under that water, they say that she received gifts. Right? She received a vision. She received a vision of that big drum there. How to make it, what to put inside it, right? What kind of hide to use, what to use for the frame. And then also in her visions, she was given songs. Right? And the songs that she was given, they had no words in them. They were chants, right? And they were meant for us to share, right? And she was told in her dream, if she was to present the Ojibwe Nation with this big drum, right, that there would be peace amongst our people, the Dakota and the Ojibwe people. So when she come out of that water, she called upon her elders. She called upon the healers, right? And she called upon her chiefs, right? And she talked to them about this dream. And the chief and the elders put her in front of the people to tell the people about her dream, right? And she told the people that she grew up in a good way, right? That we were supposed to be sharing and loving with one another, right? And she kind of scolded everybody, right? Until us getting along. So the men built that drum, right? The way she wanted to, and they sent a runner out to the Ojibwe Nation. The boys want to get a Grand Entry song ready. So she sent a runner out to the Ojibwe Nation, let them know we're coming with this gift, right? And and the Ojibwe people, they were pretty worried about this gift. They didn't trust it, right? Because we were at war quite a long time, right? But once they heard that the gift come from a little girl, a young lady, right? They accepted that gift right away. So once they had accepted that gift, all our people brought that gift over to the Ojibwe Nation. We sat down and we had a celebration, right? We sat down around that big drum and we celebrated together. We told stories. New marriages happened. New trading happened, right? And we were able to get along and celebrate together because of that big drum. Now that big drum, it hasn't changed too much over the years, right? For a while, they used those bass drums, right? You know, but that big drum come back around again, the two-sided drum, the lace in between, and the eagle feather inside. Some people put a bell in there. Some people put a rock in there, right? In our drum, we have a bell, a rock, and an eagle feather. But it's still doing its job, right? So if you were to go anywhere on Turtle Island, right, there's a powwow all over the place, and it's still doing its job. It's still bringing people together to sing. But the powwow is a little different these days. So these days we have something called a grand entry, okay? And just to speak a little bit about that grand entry, these boys are getting a grand entry song ready, right? At a powwow, that's the first thing that happens is a grand entry, right? Is all the dancers come into the powwow circuit, into that arena, and they dance. But the reality is that grand entry actually came from a parade, right? So what happened was Wild Bill, from the Wild Bill West show, right? He wanted to showcase our styles of dance, right? And he would do these things for the settlers, right? For them to get to know us a little better, right? And they see some of our ceremonies and our celebrations. But what he would do is he would have a grand entry where we all came in on our horses and in our regalias, and we'd enter into an arena. So that's where that grand entry came from. And it's still used today at all the powwows. We always do grand entry. We bring in our flags and our eagle staffs, and we have our veterans there, and we have our elders dancing with us, and then all the dancers come in and they showcase their style during grand entry. This is going to be a grand entry song. grand entry, right? And so usually what happens next is we like to honor our veterans, right? And we also like to honor our flags, right? So as you know, First Nation people really, like, we didn't have flags. So what we had were eagle staffs, right? And a lot of times those eagle staffs were dreamt of, right? And they represented their community. So we have an eagle staff at Council Fire. It's a youth staff, right? It came from out east. It's a bald eagle, and they were given seven feathers to represent those 7 fires, right? And sometime there's going to be an 8th feather put on there that talks about that 8th fire. You'll have to ask some of your elders about that 8th fire. Anyways, so we're going to sing a flag song next, and then we're going to move right into our veteran song right after, because we really have to honor those veterans. Right now, we're not talking about, like, we're talking about the veterans that went to World War II, right? We're talking about the veterans that went to Vietnam, World War I, talking about the veterans that went to Afghanistan and fought out in Iraq. But we're also talking about our ancestors, right? Because our ancestors went through a lot so that we could be here today, right? 7 generations ago, right? Ancestors fought and they said prayers for us to be here today, right? And so in this veteran song, I like to include all of our ancestors from hundreds of years back and all the battles that they went through so that we could be here today. Okay? We're going to start off with our flag songs, and we're going to honor that eagle staff that we have at Council Fire and all the eagle staffs and all the communities in your communities to wherever this video may touch. Anishinaabe Health. So I just wanna. There's gonna be four more parts, right? And this is just the first week. So we'd like to thank you for having us do your first week and having us come out for Drumming for Diabetes. Anishinaabe Health actually calls on All Nation Juniors to come out every year, right? And sometimes we have a big group of young guys, sometimes we don't, but they are always supporting of our youth at Toronto Council Fire. And I just want to say a big thank you to Anishinaabe Health for all their support all the time. So that's it for our drumming session for this week. You guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. Okay.